The Leadership in Law podcast is powered by Law Marketing Zone. Transform your firm's digital presence with expert marketing solutions tailored exclusively for attorneys at lawmarketingzone.com.
Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Edward Cohn, to the show today. Edward is an accomplished criminal defense attorney and has been representing the public for almost 23 years. He's an AV-rated preeminent attorney and has been a member of the National Trial Lawyers Top 100 for the last 6 years. In 2025, he was selected by publications such as USA Today, MSN, and Law News Day as one of the top attorneys in the country. I'm excited to have you here, Edward. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Marilyn.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the conversation. Tell us a bit about your leadership journey.
Well, I've been in private practice since the get-go, since I got out of law school, and that was 23 years ago. And I've certainly, there's definitely been hills and valleys, but I certainly enjoyed the ride so far. I enjoy working for myself, and setting my own hours and my own calendar, my own schedule, and helping people. I love representing the public. It's certainly an honor to do that and help everyday people through situations. And I've really worked hard at becoming a successful attorney. I'd say at first there was some difficulty in being in private practice. Being a brand new lawyer is very challenging, but that was thankfully many years ago, and it made me strong and it made me durable. And I think you have to have a thick skin if you're going to do anything in private practice, for sure.
Entrepreneurialism is, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not for everyone, but for me it is. It's a good fit.
Nice. So what originally pulled you towards criminal defense and what keeps you committed to it for 23 years?
That's a good question. When I came out of law school, I wasn't really sure what kind of law I was going to practice. I mean, when I was in law school, I figured I'd be a civil litigator of some sort, maybe work for a law firm, that kind of thing. When I got out of law school in 2002, with the economy was quite strange, and it was a unique time. And I was encouraged by some mentors that I connected with after I graduated to, hang out my own shingle, so to speak, go out on my own. And so, I really didn't know how to do that. I just got some guidance from some mentors, and I began going down to the courthouse basically every day. I would watch court hearings to see what happens, to see, what happens at an arraignment, what happens at a pretrial, what happens at a sentencing, what happens. And so I did that frequently. And I started doing court appointments at first just to get my feet wet and, learn how to practice law and be a lawyer and everything. And so criminal defense seemed like a good fit for that, because I wanted to be a litigator. So that's where I kind of fell into it, and it was a good fit. It was a natural fit for me. When I was in high school, my stepbrother used to get into trouble a lot, and I was always talking him out of trouble. So he used to call me he used to call me his lawyer in high school. And so that's kind of a natural fit. I mean, I like to advocate for people and make an argument for people. And so doing criminal work just kind of felt like the right thing to do, and it's worked out.
I love you took the initiative to go to court and sit through it and see what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think you definitely have to. I think you have to get comfortable with what the procedures are like, and so you're not nervous, so relaxed, and and your client feels relaxed, they're comfortable, because it's a nerve-wracking situation for a client, even if they're appointed or retained, whatever. It's no one wants to go through the justice system, basically, and have to deal with that. But the more relaxed you are, the more confident you are, the more relaxed that the client's going to be, and everyone else around you, and the judge certainly appreciates it. Yeah, so I was in court as often as possible, just to get my feet wet and learn how to be a lawyer. Basically, in law school I was a litigation major, so I did have some practical training, like tribal workshop and moot court, things of that nature, where you actually go to a pretend court and make arguments. But doing the real thing is a little bit, different at first. But for me, yeah, it was absolutely necessary, and I'm glad I did it, because that's, that made me a better lawyer.
I love that. Just the comfort level. So criminal justice is always shifting. What current issues or trends that concern you right now?
Current issues. Well, I think it's a good question. What current issues right now? Let's see here. I would say that the thing that concerns me most, and really has been kind of a concern since I was a new lawyer, is when people get wrongfully convicted of things that they didn't do. My stepdad was and always has been defending this one person who was wrongly convicted back in the 80s, long time ago. He's still in jail today in Michigan. And so for me, it's just, any kind of injustice like that's the worst thing that can happen. I mean, like, it's better that a guilty person goes free than an innocent person gets wrongly convicted. So I think looking out for those things, and sometimes prosecutors get tainted. They think everybody's guilty who's been charged with something, and that they don't really think that, and that this individual's a person, and so yeah, I think the world can easily taint you to think the worst of a situation. But I think it's essential to, for a prosecutor especially, which I've never been, but to, have an open mind, and it's a case by case basis, not kind of this broad stroking, an entire industry or a bunch of defendants. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's the most important thing for me that I have seen throughout my career.
Okay. Yeah. No, that is pretty amazing. From the 80s and still in jail. Wow.
Yeah.
So you would talk about your work as your approach is results driven and far from the bare minimum. What does it look like on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so I take everything case by case, and most people, and this, most people who get charged with a crime, the majority of the time most of them, did commit it, and they'll tell you so. They'll say, I did this. I just need you to help me mitigate the fallout of what's going to happen, minimize their jail time if it's something, serious. For like misdemeanors, I'm always trying to get, an absolute dismissal if I can, which I'm not able to negotiate sometimes. What I try to do is, for some people who've never had to deal with a criminal charge before, if they're charged with a misdemeanor, I try to, prevent them from having to go to court at all. Like, my goal would be to negotiate some sort of diversion, some sort of informal diversion, where they take a civic responsibility class or an anger management class. It depends on what they did. And that's like my bread and butter. Like, if I can get people a fantastic result, a case dismissed over a few month period, and they never had to go to court, they're absolutely thrilled.
Yeah.
So that's what I shoot for. But it's, it's a case by case basis. Sometimes you're going to get a misdemeanor that's, they have a prior record, and it's going to be more difficult to get them an outcome. Or if it's a felony, it's even more difficult to navigate. But I'd say what I do a lot of is risk management. Basically, okay, here's their case, here's their situation. How can I keep this down to a minimum? So what is their fallout going to be? I had a client who, just lost his head one night. He had his gun in his car, and there was, I guess his house got robbed, and he and his brother found out who the person was that robbed it, and they were chasing them in their own cars, and he fired his gun at at a moving car with people inside it. Nothing happened. Thank God. Nope. Nobody got hurt, but that's a super serious felony just to shoot at a. And so he was just worried about how much time he got. And thankfully I got him a very minimal amount of time. And he even had like a probation tail, which means he went to prison for a year and then he came out and was on probation like he never had to go in. But he easily could have gotten many, many years for that. So that's a good example of a case where, it's a heinous situation and it's all just managing and mitigating the fallout and trying to keep it down to a minimum. So I'm good at it. I mean, I'm a good negotiator and a good advocate. So I get good outcomes like that. So that's an example of one that I would say was a challenging case that turned out great.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you talked about creativity when we talked before, and it's not really a trait that you most associate with defense work. How do you use creative strategies to protect your clients? Obviously, your negotiating skills, but what more than that?
Yeah. So it depends on what the facts of the case is. What are the facts of each case? So, for example, I mean, I can think of another case. I had this individual who was retired. He was well educated, never had a charge of any kind before. And he kind of just lost his cool, got really angry and flipped out at a mattress store of all things, because he got an argument with the manager and he wound up getting charged with disorderly conduct, which is a very, very common charge in Arizona. It's like probably the most common misdemeanor that people get charged with. It's not a difficult thing to commit. It's very easy to commit. So he kind of flew off the handle, broke something on his way out, and the guy called the police. He was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. So he was really embarrassed and like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go to court and talk about all this. So for him, when I talked with the prosecutor, I said, well, what can we do that would satisfy you that he's addressed his issue without him having a conviction, without him having to plead guilty to anything? And so I was able to come up with a civic responsibility class and an anger management class that if he takes those two things and has proof of them, the prosecutor would dismiss the case, and she agreed, and that's what happened. So that was a creative way to help out an uneducated person who was terrified of having a criminal conviction, and he never had to go to court at all. So that was great.
That's an excellent outcome. Just emotions run high in certain things. Yeah,
absolutely. And I explained that to him. You can never do this again. Always keep your cool. If you get upset and you're in a public place, never. And he learned a great deal from it. And actually, I think taking anger management helps him, because I don't see him ever getting in trouble again. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah, I think that one unusual thing that happens in your life, and you're like, and then when people look for an attorney, they're not having a great day.
No, they're not. No, that's true. And when I first got into law school, a professor told me that. He says, just remember that nobody calls a lawyer because they want to say hi and have a chat and talk about, creative or current events. They're calling you because they're in trouble. Something happens, something big, and they expect you to help them through it. So yeah, that's something you have to accept right off the bat, is that it's like problem solving. Okay, they got a problem, help them get through it. What's the outcome going to be? How can the outcome be as minimal as possible on this individual? So yeah, I would say that people only call lawyers when they're when they're having a serious problem.
That's true. So you've been practicing for 23 years. Was there a case that fundamentally changed the way you practice?
Was there a particular case that fundamentally changed the way I practice? I would say that they collectively have. No, I mean, like in the very beginning, I was results driven. I was like, how, what can I do for this particular individual? So I was always very competitive in law school. So in my practical training, like the trial workshops and moot court, stuff like that, I was always trying to win and, be well prepared, be the most prepared lawyer in the class and hopefully have the best outcome. I'd say there's one case that made me super proud about being an attorney, and that was when I was a young lawyer in my first few years of practicing. this girl who was a student at a university in Michigan, not U of M, but another university. She, she had no prior record of any kind. She got a job working for Best Buy of all things, and she essentially embezzled money through doing gift cards and returns. But like over a period of time, it was over several months, it was like something like $30,000 or $40,000. So
Wow.
it was a lot. And she wanted to go to grad school after college. She was like panicking, but she, so thankfully there was a statute in that state at the time that allowed me to negotiate something for people who were 20 and under. She was 20. And she was able to basically have her plea taken under advisement, which means you enter a plea, but there's not actually a conviction. You go through probation, you complete probation, you're dismissed, and they vacate the plea. It's eliminated. So she has no conviction whatsoever. So she did have to do a few days in jail just to scare her straight, basically. The judge to do that. It wasn't long. It was like 3 or 4 days. But she did great, and she wound up going to grad school after she got out of college. And during that case, they were talking about it on the radio. It was like a high-profile case because the students, embezzled a good amount of money from a store, and they were frustrated they were upset about the deal I got her. And I was listening to the radio and hearing them talk about it, and I felt so good about myself. I was like, I did a great job. If they're upset, I know I did a good job. And so she was thrilled, and I haven't seen her in all these years, but I'm sure she's doing just fine.
Wow. No, that's got to make you proud too. You upset them, you won your case, and your person your client got to go on and live her life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. So I know there's a lot of pressure in criminal trials and stuff. How do you manage the pressure that you're going through to make these things happen while giving each client your full attention? Hey, lawyers, are you losing cases to firms online that aren't even better attorneys than you? They're just better at marketing? Most law firms are nearly invisible online. If you're not showing up in the Google Map pack, if your ads aren't converting, or if you're constantly waiting on referrals, you're leaving money on the table. At Law Marketing Zone, we've helped clients go from 0 to over 20 cases a month. And we've put our top strategies into a quick, free checklist, the Law Firm Marketing Fix. 10 ways to stop losing clients online. Download it right now for free. You'll discover the biggest mistakes most firms are making and how to fix them fast. Then, if you're ready, book a free strategy call and we'll walk through the gaps in your current marketing. Don't wait for referrals. Start attracting your ideal clients today. Click to get the checklist now.
Yeah, I think it's just managing stress is difficult for everybody. And so lawyers definitely have a lot of stressful situations. For me, it's kind of like, if you ever performed on stage or was in theater, it's kind of like being nervous and having to go on stage, like for theaters. That's usually how I feel in the beginning. But as I get going, I become more and more relaxed, and it feels more and more natural. So for me, it feels like kind of like a theater performance. Like in the beginning, there's those butterflies, and you're trying to calm everything. I just try to stay focused. I talk to myself, say stay calm, and I prepare. I usually over prepare for.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I usually prepare more than your average lawyer would, and then so I feel like, okay, listen, I'm going to do the best I can. I got all the bases are covered. You can't predict everything that's going to happen in a trial or an evidentiary hearing. Sometimes things just kind of go a little bit weird or sideways, and you have to be fast on your feet and just like, okay, I'm just going to react to it and respond to it. So because there's no way to predict everything that's going to happen, but for me, just by being super prepared and knowing that I'm going to do my best always relaxes me. It makes me feel like, okay, no matter what happens, I can tell my client I've done my best, and at the end of the day, it's, sometimes these hearings or trials are going to be up to a judge or a jury, and you're just going to have to accept that they get the final word. And so I always tell my clients that I'm going to do my very best. We're going to do our best together as a team. And at the end of the day, the judge makes a decision or the jury makes a decision, and see what happens. So that's what I feel calming I feel those things make me very relaxed, knowing that I prepared well.
I think being over-prepared and also setting the expectations to your client, that's two very calming factors to walk into court with.
Right. Exactly. And when they feel that and they know that's the case, they get relaxed. And if a trial lasts several hours or sometimes several days, hopefully they're more relaxed as the case goes on. And usually they are. And usually I am as well, because you kind of get into your zone, you know what I mean? Where you feel comfortable, confident.
And your energy flows to them as well. They feel your calmness and
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say confidence is super important, so that clients know that you instill confidence in them, and they feel, okay, good. I got the right guy or the right girl or the right lawyer who's on the case. I think that's essential.
You mentioned earlier about mentors you had in law school, and you've been vocal about the need for young lawyers to find mentors. Why do you find that so important in criminal law?
I think it's absolutely necessary to have some mentoring when you're a young lawyer. Now, some attorneys may go to work for a law firm, and they're naturally going to be mentored by a partner there or somebody who's been practicing law longer, and that's good. That's good. When you're a solo practitioner. So for me, my criminal law attorney and criminal procedure attorney, he used to do criminal appeals, and he was very good at it. He was one of my mentors. I had another professor that was a mentor. And when I first got out of law school, I joined the local bar association in the county that I was primarily practicing in. I mean, in Michigan, it was more like 3 counties. But when I joined, there was a mentoring program that allowed me to connect with somebody who wanted to mentor me and who was like a solo practitioner. And I'm still friends with him today. His wife became a judge ultimately when I was practicing law in Michigan, but he was very helpful, and just made me feel confident about wheeling and dealing. Because you have to get cases, you have to do well, and so for me, it instilled in me the belief that I could actually do this, that it wasn't just rolling the dice. Like, I could actually be successful at it. He's successful at it. I can be successful at it. And so I would encourage anybody to have some mentors in their life early on in their practice, whether it's at a law firm they're working for, or like I mentioned, some professors from law school, or a mentor that they can connect with through a local bar association.
I think it's very normal in the legal industry to have a mentor, as opposed to a lot of other industries, it's a business coach or something like that. So someone who's been there, seen the procedures happen. Do you mentor lawyers today?
When I have the opportunity to, I haven't had anyone, ask me to, but certainly there have been a few U of A, University of Arizona law school students who did some paralegal work for me while they were a 2-year or a 3-year student. And I got connected with them through the law school, and I paid them for their work. But so I have had the chance to mentor them, definitely, during the few select cases that those 2 people helped me out with. And that was more like, it was fun, and it was more just like a natural thing, because they wanted to make some extra money and I needed some extra help, and it was a good fit. So I would say so yes, I have had some opportunity to mentor other people.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's always nice to have that help and then be able to impart some information to them and help them learn a bit. Over the past 20 years on your own, what personal habits have kept you sharp, grounded, and effective? Because you work on your own, right?
Yes, I do. Sharp, grounded, and effective. I would just say having a good routine. So for me, I think waking up early is an important thing to do. I realize when you're a solo, sometimes your days are going to be different. So sometimes you might be able to get a little more sleep than others. But as a whole, trying to consistently wake up early, to have some sort of exercise routine during the week, doesn't have to be every day, but some sort of exercise, I found very helpful for stress. It makes you feel so much better. And just being completely tenacious, like, I am going to be the best advocate I can for my client. I'm going to fight for them and try to get the best outcome. in spite of the facts, even if the facts are challenging and difficult. So being tenacious, being prompt, being early for court hearings, not being late, things of that nature, just being really punctual, I think are attributes that are essential. And so for me, those things have really made me feel stronger and confident. And I forgot the other word you used.
Grounded and effective. So it's like what you were saying, you get up early, you exercise. So you're taking care of your mental health. And then by you being on point, always prompt and over prepared, that just leads right into success.
Exactly. Yes.
Fantastic. If I were to wave a magic wand right now and I could solve any problem in your firm, what would that problem be?
What would that problem be? Wow, that's a good question. Because no firm is without problems, I guess. So for me, I'm trying to think what would be. I guess just to have some more. I guess the one thing I would pick is to have some more consistency with clients being more predictable. Having because being a solo, it's kind of like feast or famine sometimes. So I would say, that's how it's going to be to some degree. But I mean, if I could have it being more consistent, where like each month was similar to the last month, that would give me a lot more peace of mind instead of the feast or famine. Sometimes you get a bunch of clients come in 1 month, and then the next month is kind of slow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
consistency.
Yeah, consistency. That would be the thing I would change.
Fantastic. This has been quite interesting. I've enjoyed having this conversation and learning about you and how you practice. I know my listeners may want to reach out to you. Where can they connect with you to learn more about you and maybe chat?
Okay, sure. So they can certainly search me online, Edward F. Cohn, C-O-H-N, attorney at law. They can go to my website, which is Cohn Justice, C-O-H-N, justice.com, cohnjustice.com. Okay. They could also give me a call at 520-333-3348. That's my office number, 520-333-3348. And they can reach me that way. So I find that each client, it varies on how they find me. Sometimes it's just a Google search. Sometimes it's from a legal directory, like going on Avvo or lawyers.com or something like that. And sometimes it's a referral. And sometimes it's just random. That some people do a lot of research when they're trying to find a lawyer, and they do all kinds of searches, and then they finally start making phone calls, and then they make a decision. So
I love that you track where people heard from you. That's great.
Yeah. I always ask, and so it's always a pleasure when you hear somebody finds you on Google, for example, because it's so competitive, and there's a lot of sponsored ads where people pay for things too. So yeah, I always ask. I think it's important to ask, and it's also important to if they're happy with the work you do at the end of the representation, to ask them for a review and
I love
online.
It. Yeah. I tell my clients that I'll always make it part of your process. I agree.
Yeah.
Edward, this has been great. I've got those links. They'll be in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out to you or connect with you, it'll be in the show notes. So that'll be great. And this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Marilyn. I really appreciate being here too. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.